Hello and welcome to Willoughby DIY. My name's Faith and today we're going to be comparing air dry clay, specifically Crayola and the Dollar Tree's Crafter Square brand. And in order to compare the two, we're going to be making Christmas ornaments. We're going to be kicking off my 12 days of Christmas DIYs, where I'm going to upload a video every single day from today all the way until Christmas Eve, and each video will feature a winter or Christmas DIY. Most importantly, you're going to need air dry clay. I grabbed some of this Crayola brand air dry clay from Walmart. You can get it in white like I have here, or their terracotta color. I think they have other colors, but I'm not 100% sure. As far as price goes, Crafter Square is cheaper unless you buy larger quantities of the Crayola. If you buy like 5 pounds or more, it does end up being cheaper in the long run, especially with Dollar Tree raising their prices. And I picked up one of those ice cube trays, the little rubbery ones, and some cookie cutters, a pack from the Dollar Tree and Walmart. And we're gonna get started. Laid down some wax paper in order to protect my surface from having to clean too much afterwards. And we're just gonna grab that Crayola clay and start doing something known as priming, which is basically you're just warming up the clay between your hands. You're just gonna squish it and knead it until it gets soft and more pliable. Once it is feeling good and workable, I put it on a flat surface, like my table, and just smushed it down. I'm just flattening it until it's about a ½ inch, maybe a ¼ inch to a ½ inch thick. You can then use a rolling pin to get it smoother, but I don't have one of the plastic ones and I wasn't getting one out of my kitchen to do this with. But a fondant roller would be perfect for this. Just smooth it out and then you can use your cookie cutters to cut it the shape you want. For the Crayola clay, I chose the Walmart cookie cutters. They have more detailed shapes for their cookie cutters than the Dollar Tree ones, but they're the same quality, honestly, as far as the plastic and all that goes. And then we can smooth out any cracks or just little messed up parts that you might have messed something up while you were pulling it out. We're just going to use some water, dip our fingers in water, and smooth that all over the surface of our ornament and the sides. To create a hole to put in our ornament hanger, our little ornament hook, we're just going to use a little plastic straw. I mean, super simple, right? Just push it, put it where you want it, and carefully push and turn it to pop a hole in there. I'm going to make another gingerbread man and then a couple of trees. And you could see here how once the clay was dried a little bit, it was more cracked up. But once I did this with the water, this little water trick, smoothing it out, after it dried, it looked perfectly smooth. So this does help with those imperfections. And then we're going to our Crafter Square air dry clay and some Dollar Tree cookie cutters. The first thing you notice that's different from the Crayola is the packaging, obviously, and the quantity. I was really concerned that this was going to be super messy because I've seen other YouTubers using it and they made a mess with it. I mean, the pigment just got everywhere. But I didn't have too much trouble with it. I mean, it was a little messy, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. The other thing I noticed, though, is it's a lot less dense and lighter than the Crayola, which I don't really like. You see me smelling it there. It smells really weird, like so strange. I really don't like the smell either. It also has trouble wanting to stick to itself. Like the Crayola clay, just, it's really kind of sticks together, but this is real light and not very dense, and so I just added some water to try to help it out. I flattened it out, same thing I did with the Crayola, and I'm going to use the cookie cutters and cut out the shapes. I chose a star and a snowman, and you'll see here in just a second how it doesn't like to stick to itself, like it just peels right off. I mean, it's super easy to get it off the cookie cutters. But again, that's not necessarily a good thing because that means it probably won't hold its shape as well and it'll likely crack more. We're going to smooth it out with water just like with the Crayola. And I did put all of them on a wax paper lined tray so they could sit around and dry. And of course, pop their holes in. And then we're going to take the rest of this air dry clay from the Crafter Square air dry clay, and we're going to fill in half of these little molds on this holiday ice cube tray. And I just took a chunk of the clay and just shoved it in there and pressed. You can't really see whether or not you're filling in those details because it's opaque, obviously. You can't see through it. I was just trying to press it down as much as I could to make sure I filled in all of those crevices, all those details that are in the little ice cube molds. I also smoothed out the tops, backs, whatever you want to call it, of these with water as well. And then I just repeat the same thing with the other half of the tray using the Crayola clay. Then we're going to set all that aside to dry. It took about a day and a half, 2 days for the cookie cutout ones to dry. And you can see here, these look a little rougher. The Crafter's Square clay dries faster than the Crayola clay, but the Crayola is so much smoother and nicer looking, I think, anyway. I also checked on the little ice cube tray ones, and they were about halfway dry at this point. It did take them about 3 days to fully dry, and that's mostly because I left them in the tray for like the first day and a half, which was not smart. And you could see how the details just, it didn't work as well with the Dollar Tree clay. It didn't fill in all the spots, and it didn't hold those details very well. And the Crayola didn't do a perfect job of it, but it did do a better job than the Crafter's Square clay. And at this point, I did realize that I didn't actually add in any hooks to these little candy ornaments. So I decided to do that. I just took this little pointy tool from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to poke some holes in the sides of my Crayola clay ornaments. And it worked just fine because, like I said, they were only halfway dry. So I would recommend maybe let these dry for about 8 hours, then take them from their molds, pop your holes in for your hooks. You'll be good to go. And that'll even work for the Crafter's Square clay as well. I'm pretty sure it'll work for those as well. But if you let it dry most of the way, like these are about 2/3 of the way dry, I only got one usable ornament out of the 4 of them, because aside from this one, which I somehow managed to poke a hole in it without cracking and breaking it, all of the other ones broke. You could see up there in the top left, yeah, that one broke. This one breaks. Yep. And so does the next one. So do not let these dry before you poke a hole. Make sure they're only about 1/3 of the way dry. So like I said, 8 hours, remove them from the tray, pop your holes, and then just lay them out to dry. For the hooks, we're just taking regular ornament hooks, and I'm pinching one end together like that to make sure it's nice and tight together. We're going to add some gel super glue, and we're just going to take that and stick it right in that little hole we poked in the ornament. Now you may have the problem I did, and you'll have like a little piece of this metal sticking up like that. If it doesn't bother you, don't worry about it, but it's super easy to just trim that off. And of course I decorated these. The stars, I did a metallic gold and silver paint from Folkart and added some wood stars to it. I painted the snowman white with a black hat and added some details in with Dollar Tree puff paint. I used a combination of these metallic markers from the Dollar Tree and the Dollar Tree puff paint to make these trees look beautiful. For these guys, I just painted them a solid color. I chose this beautiful moss green for the green ones, and my daughter chose the pink for the pink ones. And then I just took a liner brush and added in some details with some different colors. Give them a top coat. I used gloss for these little ornaments and a matte clear spray paint for these ornaments. I think they turned out really, really nice. I added some letters and names to some of them. I'll be giving these away to my nieces and nephews. They make great little gifts for anyone, or if you have some sort of theme you're going with your Christmas trees, that's a great way to make custom little ornaments. It was really fun to make ornaments out of these, and it's a great activity you could do with kids. But I would have to say that I prefer the Crayola clay over the Crafter's Square. It's easier to get the shapes you want. The finish is smoother. If you're using something like a mold, it holds the details better. It doesn't have a weird smell. And it's more dense, and I like the texture of it a lot better. So I prefer the Crayola. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Tap that notification bell so you know every time I upload. And hey, check out my Holly Jolly playlist to see all the Christmas DIYs I've done so far. I hope you all have a very merry day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.